Money Follows Mindset, written and published by Naquib Larry. Introduction. For a long time, I believed that money was the missing piece in my life. I worked hard, stayed loyal to the struggle, followed every rule I was taught, and yet something always felt missing. I kept thinking I needed more effort, more time, more luck. But one day I realized it was never about money. It was always about mindset. We grow up with beliefs that limit us, told to dream small, to play it safe, to wait for things to happen. But success doesn't come from waiting. It comes from changing how you see yourself and what you believe you deserve. The day I stopped blaming the outside world and started reshaping my inner world, everything began to shift. This book isn't about getting rich overnight. It's about becoming someone who attracts wealth, peace, and purpose through mindset. You already have the spark inside you. All you need now is the courage to light it. Because once your mindset changes, everything else does too. Chapter 1. Broke wasn't just my bank. It was my belief. There was a time in my life when I thought being broke was normal. Not temporary, not a phase, but a fixed reality. Like something written in my fate. We weren't just struggling with money. We were drowning in a mindset that said, "This is all you'll ever be." Our home was small, the nights were long, and the conversations were filled with stress, never dreams. I remember hearing my parents whispering in the other room. Not loud arguments, just quiet, tired discussions about overdue bills, ration lists, and sacrifices that kept growing. As a child, I didn't know how much things cost, but I knew how much they cost us emotionally. There was a heaviness in the air, like dreams weren't allowed to breathe in our house. Growing up, I believed that some people were just born lucky. Some had money, freedom, peace, and others were built for struggle. I never questioned it. I accepted it. I remember walking past rich houses and thinking, that life isn't mine. It never will be. I thought ambition was arrogance, that trying to change your reality was only for those who already had something to stand on. Deep down, I had buried every desire under one sentence. It's not for people like me. And that one sentence became a chain, a mindset of limits, a belief in boundaries that didn't even exist. It took me years to realize that poverty wasn't just in my pocket, it was in my perspective. That being broke financially is a problem, but staying broke mentally is a choice. Money was missing from my wallet, yes, but belief was missing from my soul. I had unknowingly trained myself to accept less, expect less, and settle for less. And the worst part? I wasn't even angry about it. I was numb. I called it realistic. I wore my pain like armor. I was proud of surviving, even though I was dying inside a little more every day. That's what poverty does. It convinces you that pain is normal, that silence is strength, and that giving up is maturity. One night, I sat on the edge of my bed. It was hot. The electricity had been cut off again. There was no fan, no light, no noise, just the sound of my own thoughts. My phone battery was dead. I had nothing to distract me. For the first time, I was forced to listen to myself. And what I heard changed me. I heard my inner voice whisper something so painful, yet so real. Is this really the life you're going to settle for? That one question hit me harder than any insult, any failure, any poverty I had faced. Because deep down, I knew the answer. This couldn't be it. This wouldn't be it. That night, something cracked inside me. Not my hope, but my helplessness. I didn't suddenly become rich. I didn't get some magic opportunity. But I got something far more powerful. Awareness. The awareness that I had been my biggest enemy, that my thoughts, not my circumstances, were trapping me, that I had been feeding my mind with limits for years, and now I had to unlearn all of it. Slowly, painfully, deliberately, I began to rebuild my mindset. I started reading, observing, listening to people who thought differently. Not just rich in money, but rich in confidence, in belief, in courage. Their words became my fuel. That's when I learned the truth. Money follows mindset. Always has, always will. You don't attract wealth by chasing it blindly. You attract it by becoming someone who believes they deserve it, who is ready to handle it, who is bold enough to grow into it. Your outer world is just a reflection of your inner world, and my inner world had been filled with fear, scarcity, and shame. So naturally, my life reflected the same. Changing that wasn't easy. It meant questioning everything I had believed. It meant cutting off people who lived in victimhood. It meant showing up for myself even when I didn't see any results. But slowly, shift by shift, my mindset began to heal, and my life began to follow. This chapter isn't just my story. It's the story of millions who are still stuck, not because they lack money, but because they've accepted a belief that they're not meant for more. But let me tell you something that no one told me. You are not poor. You're just untrained. Your mind is a tool, and when you sharpen it, focus it, and believe in it, everything else starts to change. That was the first lesson I learned on my journey. Broke isn't just a number, it's a mindset, and you can change it. Chapter 2. The day I asked myself, why not me? We all have a moment in life that quietly splits everything into before and after. For me, it wasn't some big event, no grand speech, no winning lottery. It was just a question. A simple question that echoed inside me louder than any noise I had ever heard. Why not me? I still remember the day clearly. I was sitting at a roadside tea stall, watching a guy in a sharp suit step out of a black car. He looked young, maybe not much older than me, confident, calm, in control. He walked past me like I didn't even exist, not with arrogance, but with purpose. And something about that bothered me. Not because I envied him, but because I had never seen myself that way. I had spent my whole life admiring people like him, putting them on a pedestal, assuming they were special, different, lucky, chosen. But in that moment, something inside me pushed back. Something said, he breathes the same air. He lives under the same sky. He's human, just like you. So what's stopping you? That question hit me hard. Why not me? Why can't I be successful? Why can't I build something great? Why can't I change my story? I wasn't asking it out of jealousy. I was asking it out of awakening. I had lived far too long in the shadows of doubt and limitation. I had made peace with smallness, with just enough, with the idea that greatness belonged to other people. But that question made me realize no one was coming to rescue me. No one was going to knock on my door and hand me a better life. I had to build it. I had to believe in it before anyone else could. And before belief comes the decision to believe. For the first time in years, I saw myself, not as a victim of life, but as a builder of it. Not as someone who could have been, but someone who still could be. That mindset shift wasn't loud or dramatic. It didn't change my life overnight, but it changed me, and that made all the difference. Because once you ask, why not me? You start noticing the real answers. You see the fear that's kept you stuck, the excuses you've wrapped yourself in, The comfort zone you've disguised as reality. You start realizing how much of your life was on autopilot, driven by old programming, broken self-image, and inherited fear. But now you're awake. Now you're choosing. And that's the most powerful moment of all, when you stop living by default and start living by design. That day, I went home and wrote 3 words in bold letters on a paper. Why not me? I taped it above my bed. I wanted that question to haunt me every morning. I wanted it to challenge me every night. It became my reminder that I wasn't less. I wasn't late. I wasn't locked out. I just hadn't decided yet. From that moment, my attitude changed. I didn't magically get opportunities, but I started creating them. I started showing up differently. I started speaking with more intention, thinking with more clarity, and acting with more courage. I didn't need approval anymore. I just needed momentum. As days passed, people around me noticed the difference. Not in my clothes, not in my money, but in my energy. I walked with purpose. I talked with passion. I started reading books, watching interviews, listening to people who had walked the path I wanted to walk. Their struggles became my motivation. Their words became my mentors. And with every passing day, that one question kept pushing me forward. Why not me? You see, this world doesn't just reward talent. It rewards those who believe they belong, those who show up despite fear, those who speak up despite doubt, those who keep moving even when no one claps, and you can be one of them if you let yourself. So today, I pass that question to you. Yes, you. The one reading this right now. The one with 100 doubts and 10 dreams. The one who's tired of surviving and ready to live. Ask yourself, not with arrogance, but with bold honesty, why not you? And then get up and start building the answer. Chapter 3. The price of comfort is too high. Comfort is a beautiful place, but nothing grows there. We all crave comfort. It feels safe, predictable, warm. It tells us, don't worry, just stay where you are. Don't take the risk. Don't raise your hand. Don't try something new. Just relax. And for a while, it feels like peace. But here's the truth I learned the hard way. Comfort has a cost. A silent, dangerous, invisible cost. And by the time you realize how much you've paid, it's often too late. For years, I lived inside a bubble of comfort. I chose the easy way, the quiet life. I avoided challenges, stayed within the lines, and told myself I was being smart. I thought survival was enough. I convinced myself that ambition was for others, not for people like me. I didn't take the job I really wanted. I didn't launch the idea I kept thinking about. I didn't speak up in rooms that mattered. I kept saying maybe later, maybe when I'm ready. But later never came, and ready was just an excuse dressed in fear. One day I looked around and realized something painful. I had built a comfortable life, yes, but it was also a small one. Predictable, but passionless. Stable, but soulless. And that's when it hit me. Comfort had stolen my courage. It had numbed my hunger, dulled my ambition, and silenced the fire inside me. I wasn't failing because I wasn't capable. I was failing because I was too comfortable to try. The price I paid? Missed opportunities, lost time, regret. You see, comfort doesn't scream. It whispers. It convinces you slowly. It tells you you're doing okay. It makes you compare yourself to people doing worse, so you feel better. It feeds you just enough to keep you from starving, but never enough to help you grow. And over time, you lose your edge. You forget the version of you who once dreamed big. You settle into a life that looks fine on the outside but feels empty inside. That's the cost. Not pain, but numbness. Not struggle, but stagnation. I had to break out, and breaking out of comfort is brutal. Your body resists. Your mind panics. Everything in you screams, "Go back. Be safe." But that's how you know you're growing. Discomfort is not a sign of danger. It's a sign of transformation. It means you're pushing past your limits, stretching your identity, building something new. And let me tell you, the first step out of your comfort zone is the hardest, but it's also the most powerful. Because that step tells your mind, we're not hiding anymore. I started small. I said yes to things that scared me. I spoke up even when my voice shook. I applied for things I didn't feel qualified for. I took chances that didn't promise safety but offered growth. And every time I stepped out of comfort, I discovered something. I was stronger than I thought. Not because I never failed, but because I didn't run back to safety when I did. I stayed. I learned. I got better. And slowly, the world started to shift. Not because it changed, but because I did. Now I understand that growth and comfort can't live in the same place. You have to choose. Either you choose the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. Either you chase your dream or live with the thought of what could have been. And trust me, the price of comfort is far higher than the price of effort. So ask yourself honestly, what has comfort cost you? Your potential? Your self-respect? Your dreams? Your voice? It's not too late. You can still choose discomfort, the kind that transforms, the kind that wakes you up, the kind that reminds you you were made for more. The life you want is not waiting for you in your comfort zone. It's waiting for you on the other side of fear, in the land of uncertainty, where growth begins and greatness lives. So take the step. Say yes. Take the risk. Speak up. Show up. Fail forward. And remind yourself every day, the price of comfort is too high, and I'm no longer willing to pay it. Chapter 4. The rich think differently, and so can you. For the longest time, I believed rich people were just lucky, born into wealth, born into success, born with advantages that people like me could only dream of. I used to look at expensive cars, luxury houses, business owners, and think, it must be nice to have that kind of life. But I never asked the deeper question. How did they think to get there? Because the real difference wasn't their clothes, their bank balance, or their lifestyle. It was their mindset. Rich people, and I'm not just talking about millionaires, but people who live with purpose, growth, and impact, think differently. And once I began studying them, not just watching them, I started to see the patterns. I realized that I had been trapped in a mindset of scarcity, while they operated from a mindset of abundance. Where I saw risk, they saw opportunity. Where I saw limits, they saw possibilities. Where I asked, "Can I afford this?" they asked, "How can I create more value?" Let me be clear. It's not about arrogance. It's about mental training. Rich thinkers are trained to see things differently. They understand that time is more valuable than money, because time, once lost, can't be earned back. They prioritize learning, not just earning. They invest in skills, mentors, books, environments, relationships, long before they invest in material things. Meanwhile, people stuck in the poor mindset keep chasing quick money without changing the way they think. That's why nothing changes long term. I was guilty of that. I used to think more hours meant more income. I believed saving money was the key to getting rich. I thought taking a stable job, even if I hated it, was the smart path. But then I started observing rich thinkers. And I realized they don't trade time for money. They build systems. They don't save every rupee. They invest it. They don't fear failure. They expect it, learn from it, and move forward faster than most. It made me uncomfortable at first, because I had to confront the fact that my thinking was my biggest limitation. Not the economy, not my background, not even my education, but my mindset. I had been thinking small, scared, and safe, while success requires thinking big, bold, and brave. One day, I wrote down 2 columns in my notebook. On one side, poor mindset. On the other, rich mindset. Poor mindset said, I can't afford it. Rich mindset said, how can I afford it? Poor mindset said, what if I fail? Rich mindset said, what if I win? Poor mindset said, I already know enough. Rich mindset said, there's always more to learn. Poor mindset avoided responsibility. Rich mindset took ownership of their time, habits, and future. That exercise changed me. It made me realize how many mental blocks I had accepted as truth. It showed me that I didn't need to be born rich to think rich. I just needed to reprogram my beliefs, one day at a time. So I started surrounding myself, physically or virtually, with people who thought differently. I listened to their stories. I paid attention to how they made decisions. I noticed their language, how they talked about problems, how they handled pressure, how they stayed focused on growth, not gossip. And slowly, I began shifting, not overnight, but gradually, powerfully. I stopped blaming. I started learning. I stopped comparing. I started creating. I stopped playing small. I started believing big. And that belief became my new foundation. Because once your mindset upgrades, your life has no choice but to follow. Here's the best part. You can do this too. You don't need permission. You don't need approval. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment. All you need is one decision. I'm going to think like a builder, not a beggar. Like a creator, not a consumer. Like someone who adds value, not just seeks it. Success begins the moment you start thinking differently. And once you do, everything else begins to change. Income, habits, circle, energy, direction. Because the rich don't just earn differently. They think differently. And so can you. Chapter 5. You don't get paid by the hour. You get paid by your value. For most of my life, I believed that the harder you work, the more you earn. That success was about putting in long hours, sweating through the day, and staying up late. I was taught that time was equal to money. That if I worked 10 hours a day, I deserved more than the one who worked 5. It made sense, until life proved me wrong. One day, I found myself exhausted, doing everything right, showing up early, staying late, and still broke. Meanwhile, I saw people making 10 times more than me, working fewer hours. I couldn't understand it. I felt angry, frustrated, even cheated. I thought, this isn't fair. I work so hard. Why am I still stuck? That question stayed with me for days, until I came across a sentence that shook me. You don't get paid by the hour. You get paid by the value you bring to that hour. I read it again and again. That one line changed everything. It made me realize something uncomfortable, but powerful. Hard work alone is not enough. The world doesn't pay you for how tired you are. It pays you for how valuable you are. And value doesn't come from effort alone. It comes from impact, skill, results, and thinking differently. Think about it. A laborer might work 12 hours under the sun, but earns less than a graphic designer who works 2 hours on a laptop. A driver may drive all day, but earns less than a software developer who builds a tool that thousands use. Why? Because the world rewards value, not sweat. At first, this truth made me uncomfortable. It felt unfair. But then I realized this truth was empowering, because it meant I wasn't stuck. I just had to shift focus, from working more to working smarter, from just putting in hours to building value inside myself. That's when I stopped asking, how many hours should I work? And started asking, how can I make 1 hour worth more? And the answer was clear. Skills. High-income people focus on high-value skills. Communication, sales, design, branding, leadership, tech, problem-solving, creativity, content creation, strategic thinking. They learn how to think, how to build, how to lead. They learn how to turn ideas into income. While most people are trying to earn more by increasing their hours, the successful ones increase their worth. That shift changed my life. I stopped wasting time scrolling aimlessly or chasing quick money. I started learning, reading, watching, practicing. I learned copywriting. I improved my speaking. I started understanding human psychology, sales, money systems. I said yes to unpaid projects if they gave me new experience. I started building value, and slowly, the world started noticing. Clients came, opportunities came, confidence came. Because here's the truth. When your value increases, your income follows. If you're still getting paid the same despite working more, ask yourself, what value am I bringing that others can't? What do I know that solves a real problem? What skill do I have that others are willing to pay for? If the answer is nothing yet, don't panic. That's where you begin. You don't need 10 skills. You need 1 skill, done well. Then grow from there. Value is built brick by brick, quietly, daily. And when you have it, people will find you. Because value is magnetic. Don't let the world fool you into thinking hustle is everything. Hustle without strategy is exhaustion. But hustle with value? That's power. So the next time someone asks you how much you earn, remember, it's not about your hours. It's about what you bring to those hours. And if you want more, become more. Because in this world, your true salary is not paid in cash. It's paid in value. Chapter 6. Your circle is either a ladder or a cage. We don't realize it, but the people we surround ourselves with are silently shaping our future. Every word we hear, every attitude we absorb, every energy we sit around, it's either pulling us up or holding us down. Your circle is never neutral. It's either a ladder that helps you climb or a cage that keeps you stuck. For years, I didn't question my circle. These were the people I grew up with, laughed with, shared memories with. But at some point, I began to notice something strange. The more I talked about growth, the more uncomfortable they got. The more I changed, the more they pulled back. Every time I spoke about starting something new, a business, a book, a new habit, or worse, don't dream too big, you'll only get disappointed. It hit me like a punch in the gut. The people I thought were my safety net were actually the ones holding me down. That's when I learned a hard truth. Not everyone who is close to you is good for your future. And it's not always out of jealousy or hate. Sometimes it's fear. Fear that you might outgrow them, that your success might highlight their stagnation. So they joke, discourage, distract, without even realizing that they're keeping you in the cage they've built for themselves. You can't grow in an environment where ambition is mocked. You can't heal in a space that keeps reopening your wounds. And you definitely can't build a rich mindset if everyone around you is obsessed with lack, blame, and excuses. But here's the good news. Just like a cage can trap you, a ladder can lift you. And that ladder is built by the right people. People who clap for your wins. People who challenge your excuses. People who talk about ideas, not just other people. People who push you to level up, not because they need you to change, but because they believe in your potential. When I started spending time around growth-minded individuals, even virtually, I felt something shift. These people were reading books, building businesses, creating content, failing and trying again. They weren't perfect, but they were awake. And that energy was contagious. It made me raise my standards, question my beliefs, and dream bigger. That's when I understood. Who you surround yourself with will either stretch your vision or shrink your dreams. You don't have to cut everyone off, but you do need to prioritize proximity to people who match your future, not just your past. That means being intentional, joining groups, following inspiring mentors, consuming positive content, and saying no to energy drainers. Think of your mindset as a fire. Every person around you is either adding wood or pouring water. Choose wisely. And if you feel alone in your journey right now, don't worry. Growth often starts in isolation. You might outgrow some friendships. You might walk alone for a while. But soon, you'll find your tribe. The ones who see your light and reflect it back even brighter. You deserve to be in rooms where your dreams aren't laughed at. You deserve conversations that feel like strategy sessions, not gossip. You deserve a circle that challenges you with love, not limits you with fear. So take a moment and reflect. Is your current circle helping you climb? Or is it caging your wings? Because your mindset can be strong. Your will can be powerful. But if you're tied to the wrong people, they'll keep you grounded when you're meant to fly. Remember this always. Your environment is stronger than your willpower. Change your circle, and you just might change your entire life. Chapter 7. Start small, think loud. Everyone wants to do something big in life. Deep down, we all carry a dream. To become someone, to build something, to feel proud of what we've created. But many never take the first step. Not because they don't want to, but because they think they're not ready yet. They tell themselves, I don't have the money. I don't have the confidence. I don't have the perfect plan. And so they wait. Days turn into months, months into years, and eventually, the dream quietly dies inside them. But the truth is, you don't need to start big. You just need to start. I remember when I first felt that fire within me. It wasn't loud or dramatic, it was quiet but steady. A feeling that whispered, you were made for more than this. I had no big resources, no team, no fancy tools, just a notebook, an old phone, and a heart full of questions. But instead of waiting for the perfect moment, I decided to move with what I had. I told myself, it's okay if this is small. What matters is that it's real. When you start small, you're not failing. You're building. You're learning. You're planting seeds that may take time to grow, but will eventually bloom. People might not notice your beginning. You might feel invisible. You might question whether it's even worth it. But keep going. Because the loudest noise isn't in your words. It's in your consistency. When you think loud, you're choosing to believe in a future only you can see. You're letting your vision speak louder than your current circumstances. Some people will mock you. They'll call your efforts cute or useless, not because you're doing something wrong, but because your courage reminds them of everything they never started. Don't take it personally. Their doubts are not your burden. Every successful person once stood exactly where you are. Scared, uncertain, small. But they moved anyway. And that's what made all the difference. So think boldly. Even if your start is humble, let your dreams be wild. Let your actions say, "I'm serious about this." Don't wait for a crowd to clap. Clap for yourself. Show up for yourself every day. Share your thoughts. Post your ideas. Build your product. Improve your skill. Start the channel. Launch the page. Do it with heart, even if no one's watching. Because one day, the world will. Remember, it's not about how loudly you speak. It's about how deeply you believe. Start small, but never think small. Think with purpose. Think with passion. Think like your life depends on it. Because maybe it does. Chapter 8. Discipline is louder than dreams. We all have dreams. Some are loud and burning. Others live quietly inside us, waiting. Passion makes us feel alive. It gives us those sleepless nights, those long stares out the window, imagining the life we want to live. But here's a truth that most people don't want to hear. Passion without discipline fades into regret. Yes, your dream matters. Your calling is real. That spark inside you, it's not fake. But dreaming is the easy part. Doing the work when you don't feel like it. That's where transformation begins. You can be deeply passionate about something and still never make it happen. Why? Because you didn't marry that passion to discipline. There were days I felt unstoppable, ready to create, to build, to conquer. But there were more days when I felt empty, tired, unmotivated. I began to notice something. My success didn't grow on the days I felt excited. It grew on the days I showed up despite not feeling anything at all. That's when I understood the power of quiet discipline, of doing the hard, boring, unnoticed work when no one was clapping. Passion is emotional. It rises and falls like a wave. Discipline is a decision. It's solid. It stays even when everything inside you wants to quit. People love to say, "Follow your passion." And yes, you should. But don't forget, it's discipline that clears the path when passion gets lost in doubt, fear, or fatigue. It's discipline that tells you, do it anyway. There will be times when your mind screams, "What's the point? No one's watching. No one cares." And maybe for a while that's true. But greatness was never built for attention. It was built through quiet, consistent, often painful discipline. One video at a time. One page at a time. One step at a time. Some days you will hate the process. You'll feel like your effort doesn't match the results. You'll look around and wonder why others seem to grow faster. But don't let comparison steal your focus. Success isn't about speed, it's about showing up. Every single day. I've seen people with raw, burning talent quit because they couldn't stay committed. And I've seen people with average skills rise to greatness because they never stopped doing the work. They didn't wait to feel inspired. They created their own momentum through discipline. Let's be honest. Discipline hurts. Waking up early hurts. Saying no to comfort hurts. Staying focused when everyone else is relaxing hurts. But what hurts even more is waking up years later and realizing you let your own dream die. Not because you didn't care, but because you didn't stay consistent. Your dream is your baby, but discipline is the parent. It's what teaches that dream to walk, grow, survive. So today, choose the harder road. Don't wait for motivation. Build routines. build structure. Keep showing up even when your heart is silent. Passion may start the fire, but discipline keeps it burning. And in the end, when people ask how you made it, they'll expect you to say something magical. But you'll smile and simply say, "I didn't quit." Chapter 9. Every rupee has a purpose. When you're broke, money feels like a stranger. When you start earning, it feels like a friend. But only when you learn how to manage it does money become a servant. And that's the goal. Not just to chase money, but to master it. Because here's the truth most people ignore. Every single rupee you touch carries power, direction, and purpose. The problem is, we often treat it like it's meaningless, like it's just meant to disappear with every swipe, every craving, every impulsive, "I deserve this." Growing up, no one taught me how to honor money. I thought if you had it, you spent it, and if you didn't, you just wished for more. But wishing never works if you don't respect what you already have. I had to learn, sometimes painfully, that you can't out-earn bad habits. No matter how much comes in, if you don't give your money a job, it will leave you. Quietly. Quickly. Like a guest that never intended to stay. Every rupee has a purpose. Whether it's meant to feed your future, build your business, support your family, or invest in your growth, it deserves direction. When you don't tell your money where to go, it'll go anywhere. And anywhere is always a dangerous place. There was a time I spent to impress, to escape, to feel better, and it worked. For a moment. But later, I would look at my empty wallet and wonder where it all went. I wasn't poor because I didn't earn. I was poor because I didn't plan. And planning isn't about restriction. It's about freedom. Freedom from anxiety. Freedom from guilt. Freedom from always feeling like you're behind. Budgeting used to feel like punishment. But then I realized it's actually self-respect in numbers. It's telling yourself, my future matters enough to protect today. Every rupee saved is a seed planted. Every rupee wasted is a seed thrown away. You don't need to be rich to start. You just need to be intentional. Start with what you have, even if it's small. Divide it. Respect it. Give it purpose. Put some toward your needs, some toward your dreams, some toward your growth. Because when you handle small amounts with care, life will trust you with more. And when that happens, when you learn to lead your money instead of being led by it, everything changes. Not just in your wallet, but in your mindset, your peace, your confidence. You begin to walk differently, speak differently, think differently. Because you're no longer surviving. You're building. Remember, it's not how much you have that builds wealth. It's how well you manage what you have. So from now on, don't just see a rupee. See a brick in the foundation of your future. See a tool for freedom. See a test of discipline. And above all, see a purpose. Chapter 10. Failures are my mentors. Now, for most of my life, I feared failure. I saw it as a wall, a dead end. When something didn't go right, I blamed myself. I thought I wasn't good enough, smart enough, lucky enough. Every failure felt like a full stop, and I carried those wounds quietly, like invisible scars only I could feel. But with time, and after many long nights of asking, why me, something shifted. I stopped running from failure and started learning from it. Today, I can say this with a steady heart. My failures have become my mentors. You see, pain has a language, and if you listen closely, it teaches more than success ever could. Failure is brutally honest. It tells you what you're not ready to hear. It strips your ego. It humbles you. but it also builds you, if you let it. Every failed attempt carries a lesson that success hides. It shows you what doesn't work so you can find what does. It refines you, shapes you, sharpens your instincts. You grow not just in skill, but in wisdom, in resilience, in courage. I look back now at moments that once broke me, moments I thought were the end. The job I didn't get, the project that collapsed, the video no one watched, the business that flopped. Back then, it all felt unfair, but now, I'm grateful. Those experiences taught me who I really am when things fall apart. They introduced me to my grit, to my patience, to my ability to rebuild again and again. And here's the beautiful part. Once you stop fearing failure, you start moving faster. You stop waiting for perfect. You stop playing small. You take bold steps because even if you fall, you know you'll rise smarter. Most people quit after failure because they expect the road to be straight. But real growth is messy. It's full of wrong turns, rejections, and setbacks. Don't let a few broken steps convince you the journey isn't worth it. Failure is not a sign that you're not meant to succeed. It's proof that you're trying, stretching, becoming. Start treating your failures like feedback. Ask them, "What are you here to teach me?" And you'll be surprised. They'll answer. Sometimes softly, sometimes harshly, but always truthfully. I've learned that failure doesn't kill dreams. It shapes the dreamer. And if you can learn to stand in the ruins of something that didn't work, dust yourself off and whisper, "Okay, now what?" That's when you become unstoppable. So let the world laugh. Let them doubt you. Let things break. Let plans fail, but don't let your spirit stay down. Because every time you rise after a fall, you grow stronger than before. And one day, when people ask you how you became so wise, so steady, so focused, you'll smile and say, "I met failure, and it taught me everything." Chapter 11. The voice in your head can make you or break you. There's a voice inside your head that speaks louder than any noise outside. It doesn't yell, but it whispers constantly. When you wake up, when you look in the mirror, when you try something new, when you fail. And this voice, it has power. Not because it's always right, but because you believe it. And what you believe becomes your truth. Some people spend their entire lives losing battles that never even started outside, because they lost first in their own mind. They never applied for the job, never launched the business, never stepped out of their comfort zone. Not because they weren't capable, but because the voice in their head said, "Don't bother. You're not ready. You're not enough." And they listened. I used to be one of them. My own thoughts used to be my prison. Every time I felt inspired to grow, my inner critic showed up. "What if you fail again? People will laugh. You're not smart enough, not consistent enough, not lucky enough." And I believed it. So I stayed small, even when I had big dreams, and I blamed the world. But the truth was, the world outside wasn't holding me back. My inner voice was. We all have this duality inside us, the voice of fear and the voice of belief. One tries to protect you from pain by keeping you in comfort. The other tries to guide you into purpose, even if it's uncomfortable. And the one you give the microphone to, that's the one that shapes your life. The voice of fear is loud, but not always true. It's built from your past failures, trauma, judgment, and shame. It reminds you of everything that went wrong. It keeps score. It thrives on doubt. But it's not your enemy. It's just outdated programming. It's trying to keep you safe, But safe doesn't mean fulfilled. Safe doesn't mean free. Safe just means stuck. Then there's the other voice. Quieter, but full of hope. It says things like, try one more time. You are growing. You've survived worse. You're capable of more. It doesn't shout, because it knows its worth. It's the voice of who you could be, not who you used to be. Most people ignore that voice. But if you listen carefully and feed it with belief, it starts to get louder. And that's when life changes. You can't always control what thoughts show up, but you can choose which ones stay. You can stop, pause, and ask, is this thought helping me or hurting me? And if it's hurting you, you can challenge it. You can replace it. You can speak a new truth over it, not because you're faking confidence, but because you're finally choosing to rewrite the script you've been following blindly. This isn't about pretending everything's okay. It's about being honest enough to say, I've been my own worst enemy long enough. Now, I choose to be my own biggest supporter. That doesn't mean you'll never doubt again. It means when doubt shows up, you won't bow down to it. You'll hear it and move anyway. Speak to yourself like someone you love. Would you tell your friend she's not good enough? Would you laugh at her for failing? No. You'd lift her. So why don't you do that for yourself? Here's the truth. The most powerful people in the world aren't the ones who never feel fear. They're the ones who don't obey it. They've trained their inner voice. They've turned their self-talk into self-trust. And that's a skill you can build too. Start now. The next time you hear that voice say, you can't, answer with, maybe not yet, but I'm learning. When it says, you always mess up, say, I've made mistakes, but I'm still moving forward. When it says, nobody will believe in you, respond with, I believe in me. And that's enough to begin. Because in the end, your mindset is your microphone. Your thoughts become your language, and your language becomes your life. So choose the voice that builds you. Nurture the voice that believes in you. Because that voice can either make you or break you. Chapter 12. Money didn't change me, mindset did. People often say money changes people, but I disagree. Money only reveals what was already inside. What truly changes you, from the inside out, is mindset. The way you think, the beliefs you hold, the stories you repeat to yourself daily. That's what shapes your life. Not just your income, but your identity. There was a time in my life when I used to think money was the goal. I thought if I just had more of it, everything would fall into place. Happiness, confidence, peace. I tied my worth to my wallet, and when I didn't have much, I felt like I wasn't much. Every rejection felt like proof that I didn't matter. Every failure whispered, you'll always be behind. But something shifted, and it didn't start with a bank account. It started with a book, a podcast, a painful rock-bottom moment where I realized that I couldn't keep waiting for life to get better from the outside. I had to start building from the inside. I had to start feeding my mind with possibility, with purpose, with belief. I started replacing the noise in my head, the doubts, the fear, the shame, with thoughts of growth. Not toxic positivity, not fake motivation, but real inner work. I learned to see myself as more than just someone struggling. I started seeing myself as someone becoming. That's when I realized mindset is wealth. It's the foundation on which all other success is built. Because once your mind expands, your life can't shrink back. The person who begins to think differently eventually begins to live differently. When I was broke, I used to ask, why is life so unfair? But when my mindset changed, I started asking, what can I do today to build something better tomorrow? That shift changed everything. Because questions shape focus, and focus shapes results. I used to spend hours consuming garbage, mindless scrolling, gossip, negativity. But when I made the mindset shift, I started feeding my brain like it mattered. Books, habits, mentors, stillness. I became aware of what I was allowing into my head, because I finally understood that your thoughts become your future. Money didn't give me discipline. Mindset did. Money didn't teach me patience. Mindset did. Money didn't help me walk away from toxic people. Mindset did. Money didn't silence my self-doubt. Mindset did. And here's the truth. When you fix your mindset, money becomes a tool, not your master. You stop chasing it desperately and start attracting it intentionally. You start building, solving, serving, and the results follow. Not overnight, but always on time. There were people who said I changed when I started making money, but I didn't change. I evolved. I became more of who I truly was, the confident version, the focused version, the version that had been buried under years of fear, comparison, and limitation. They say success makes you arrogant. I say success makes you aware. Aware of what matters. Aware of who never clapped for you. Aware of your inner power. And all that awareness? It doesn't come from a paycheck. It comes from a mindset shift. The old me believed in luck. The new me believes in learning. The old me waited for opportunity. The new me creates it. The old me blamed the system. The new me studies it, then beats it. That's what mindset does. It turns victims into visionaries. It turns excuses into action. It turns doubt into direction. So if you're reading this thinking, I just need more money to get out of this, I hear you. I've been there. But trust me, the money will come. What you need first is the mindset that can handle it when it arrives. Because money without mindset is like water in a broken glass. It leaks. You need to become the version of you who doesn't just make money, but multiplies it, manages it, and uses it for impact. That version is already inside you, waiting, watching, wanting to rise. So no, money didn't change me. But the way I think, that changed everything. Conclusion. You've come this far not by accident, but because something inside you is ready to change. Maybe it's been silent for years, a voice that whispered, "You're made for more." And now, after every chapter, that voice should feel louder. Because it's true. Your past doesn't define your future. Your struggles don't limit your worth, and your bank balance is not your value. What truly shapes your life is how you think, how you choose, and how you rise after falling. Money was never the goal. Growth was. Because money will follow where vision, discipline, and belief lead. The world doesn't need more people chasing success. It needs more people becoming it from within. So take what you've learned here and carry it with you. Speak differently. Think boldly. Move with intention. You don't need anyone's permission to evolve, just your own commitment to never go back to who you were. Because once your mindset changes, you'll realize the life you dreamed of was always waiting for the version of you who believed it was possible.